So I think Abomination's one of the most underrated characters ever. I mean, he's Hulk's fucking rival. Well, okay, leader technically is, and he's got the whole thing where all the radiation that made like Hulk so immeasurably strong went to his brain. Brain over bronze. That's kind of cool. But Abomination is just a permanent Hulk, and he's just Hulk but stronger and a fish. But like, I don't hear any love towards him, or not nearly as much love as say the Green Goblin, Red Skull, Magneto, and damn it, a man. Who's Iron Man's? I guess the Mandarin. Even in like versus battle debates, where I think Hulk is the most relevant, because like him, Goku, and Superman are like the big three. And you hear shit all the time about like Broly or Frieza for Goku, and for Superman you have Doomsday, Darkseid, even like Lex Luthor, but you hear nothing about Abomination. I don't know, it's really weird. And today I'm going to be comparing an old versus new for Abomination, because I have two of his three only Minimates in existence. Do not worry. I only have two Minimate reviews planned after this, and, well, one I have to edit, and I have other videos that I have to edit beforehand, and another I need to have more stuff to get in before I can start that, so it'll be a little bit. So this is going to be probably the last Minimate review for a long time. If you're here for the Transformers stuff, don't worry. As soon as I'm feeling like my 100%, I'm no longer like sick at all, I'm going to start recording and editing and doing all that kind of stuff. But we are going to be taking a look at Abomination. This is the old, which, is like 2007, versus the new, which is probably like 2020, something like that. There is a third one, but it was the really shitty version of Abomination from the, I'm going to be honest, not very good Incredible Hulk movie. And maybe that's why Abomination just doesn't get anything, because much like Lizard, he had a really bad appearance in a pretty bad movie, and now everyone likes to pretend that he just doesn't matter. Which is unfortunate, because Abomination is awesome. So let's just take a closer look. And honestly, I think this is a first for old versus new, because this is probably the first time where the old figure could potentially be better than the new one. I liked both of the Ironhides that I've done, and I think the Dilophosaurus figures were fine for what they were. The new one's technically better, but I like the niche that the old one has more, where it's just a dinosaur toy. So let's just talk about this this version of Abomination. I do have the packaging, because I got it on card with him and Professor Hulk, but I left Professor Hulk in the package, and because Professor Hulk's fucking stupid. I guess we can read the read-up, or you could have, and if you didn't read it, well, sorry, go back and watch the video, idiot. Yeah, don't have much else to say about that. Very weird, I mean, I'm very used to what Minimate packaging looks like now, but this isn't even like a 2003 set. This is 2007. Not that old in comparison. I mean, it is. It's 4 years after, but yeah, I usually consider, because of when I got back into Minimates, which was like 2009, 2010, to be modern, but that's 13 years ago. So yeah, this is a pretty old Minimate, all things considering, but I don't consider it like retro, like what I thought it was going to be. I thought this was like 2004 or 5 or something, but nope, 2007. And this is actually, despite the fact that I got it on the card, incomplete. It came complete, but like most Minimates that I get that are older, he was sticky. And after I got my lot of really shitty Minimates, which I had to, I decided, I'll wash all the sticky ones from now on. And I split them apart while washing them over the sink. The piece fell off into the sinkhole, and the dishwasher was running. So, because I live in a really tiny apartment, and both the sink and the dishwasher are next to each other, they're connected, and sometimes water and stuff comes from the sink to get into the dishwasher. So I thought I could get my finger fucked up with, like, the metal blade. So, yeah, dumbass me already lost a part on a figure that I bought brand new so I could make it for this review as fair as possible. I'm a smart dude. Fortunately, since then, all the stickiness is completely gone. Much like these guys who at first were sticky, but now they feel great. Well, this guy feels a little gummy because he's clear plastic, but you know, this feels very fine, very standard. And this guy feels great too. Although some of the side stuff's sticky anyways. But anyways, the piece that was missing, it was like a little, it just made him like stand up like that. And honestly, I think it's kind of a weak way of making him bigger because he also has bigger feet. And it just makes him tall. I know that this is what older toys did because their technology was limited, but to make them bigger, they kind of just made them taller by stretching some parts like the legs or the body. And it is a very ineffective method. It just makes him look a little weird because his legs are the same, his arms are the same. It's just he has a longer body and it just looks awkward for what his proportions are supposed to be. So I actually think it works better like this. I mean, sure, he's shorter, but I mean, this is like old Minimates. I think it's fine. And outside of that, this is a really nice representation of Abomination. He has the right colors and pretty much all the right details that I consider for Abomination. And to make the head better, they added on this little helmet piece that gives him his brows, a couple of weird bumps, and the iconic head fins, which I think is still kind of sticky, which I think is very important for Abomination to have. I guess we can also take off the one thing to show you, the one thing that makes him a bit more bulky than a standard Minimate. Fuck.
The big little boy scout.
The boy! Yeah, kind of just plain detail. No, not plain detailing. There's no detailing underneath. So, like, if you put that back on, it's just... then he really would look like an old Minimate. I kind of wish that they still had some detailing underneath. Kind of like what Crayons did back in the day, where they still had details underneath, like these pieces here. I think maybe a couple of Minimates may have done that. Some of them it really wouldn't have worked. But, I don't know, it's just a nice thing to have. That's really the only thing that makes him look any bulky, except for, you know, dumb fuck. But yeah, there's not much else to say. They got the colors right, the details are all nice, and they're very effective, especially for 2007. And he's also got the two toes, which, I don't know if I said this yet, are very important. And the plastic quality, very nice. Again, I really like these old Minimate style feel. The plastic feels nice. Not, like, amazing, but, like, nice enough to, like, you know, you can pick it up, handle it just a little bit, and then put it back down. You don't have to put it in any specific pose, like, oh, these are in very standard poses, except for maybe the Library Ghost. But, you know, I don't think Minimates are, like, for getting in dynamic poses, like, unless you have the display base. You're never going to get a Minimate to look like that. It's just cool that it can do that. It's just something that's a little nicer for kids to mess around with. And because of the plastic quality, it's encourages handling. It doesn't feel like these things are going to break. So, you know, there's that. We won't go over Articulation yet. We'll go over it when we talk about the other one. So, I think for the time, this is still a really nice Minimate, but it's a little bit dated by today's standards. I think what really could have saved it is having some, like, shoulder pieces that you could have attached here. So, let's go ahead and talk about the new one. And this thing does one thing above the old one really well, and that is the way they make the bigger characters. Because yes, he does have the big piece, but if we take off the head and take off this piece, which is a little bit more flexible, so that's a little nice, you can kind of see what's going on. So yeah, he's just got he's got a normal body, but I don't really mind. He's got the shoulder pieces, which is what I'm saying this guy could have missed because his shoulders look kind of sloped and tiny. He's got the giant boxing gloves. Well, maybe not boxing gloves, but giant gloves with the claws on top. And, of course, he's got the little spacing part to make them a little taller, which that and the boot really does make them a little bigger. But, again, because of, you know, the arms being bigger, it works. And the legs are much bigger because they have the parts for the thighs and the feet. So I think that's a very, very effective way of making bigger characters, which is something that Minimate does way better than Lego minifigures, because this just looks bad. I know we all like big figs, but like they don't move, they don't look like minifigures, they're way too big. They're just not as good. And I did say earlier that the smaller Minimates aren't very good, but with Rocket Raccoon and this Spider-Man, you know, they've shown that they can do it. They can do it now. So, Lego minifigures, watch out. There you go. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's a marginal improvement, but everything else is a considerable downgrade. It just, first off, I do like the added-on parts, but the detailing is not very good, and it just kind of makes it look cheap. Look at that mold line! God damn! Ew. I mean, the detailing isn't terrible, but you compare it to the original, and it just looks too simplistic. Especially the legs. It just looks so stupid. It looks like a Nintendo 64 model. I don't know how else to describe it. I do kind of miss the hands. I do love those stupid little stubby hands, but, you know, that's fine too. I don't really mind that. One of the biggest problems is his feet. He has just like little boots and 3 little toes. Are you really not gonna focus? Look at those toes. Oh, they look terrible. That was perfect. And you can't be like, well, we could just change the parts around to make the perfect Abomination because the colors are off. Hey, just look at the detail on the back. Yeah. I guess he has decent arm detailing, but like, it just looks not good. I also think the colors, again, are marginally worse. This is like, it kind of reminds me of like Brawl from Transformers, where this is like the nice earthy green. Maybe not nice, but nice for the character. And this is just like a weird, gross, beige puke green. Like the Combiner Wars one, it just doesn't look very good. I don't know what, I mean, I guess that's more like modern Abomination. But the one thing that really looks bad, the head. This is my major issue. That's not Abomination. It barely is. You know, Abomination, there's a lot of features. And I tried looking into like, oh, maybe this is what he looks like nowadays, because I'm very out of the loop with modern Marvel comics, because they're trash. But no, it's not even that accurate. These Yoda-ass ears, no, he's always had these fins. And he's even always had the brows. I don't know what's up with those like doomsday-looking ass crystals on his cheeks. He's got the Thanos chin for no reason. Looks like a shark with those teeth. And I don't really like how they do like the molded heads nowadays. I kind of like the whole thing with like the customization where you can swap it off, put on like hair pieces. Even if it's to not be silly like Lego, it's to customize something you're unhappy with. Like for instance, perfect example, this library ghost. I was very disappointed, and I'm probably going to get a replacement part for the skirt. I was very disappointed because, you know, the parts that are there, like the body, you know, the head, those are all really nice, but then, like, the hair was terrible, but I swapped it with a Storm Minimate, and now I really like it. It's not perfect, but that's actually probably one of my favorites now, but, like, officially, it's the worst. You know what I mean? But this, you can't swap it, because they got the molded on ears. You think that makes me happy? It doesn't. One more thing. The plastic quality. Remember, this is my first Minimate set that I got before I officially got back in. Like this, I mean, like, you know, those are probably what I got back when I started to really get in. But like in my big video where I talked about all the non-Lego stuff, all those Minimates I got like during like 2020, 2021, something like that. And this was the first set that I got. And I was like, oh, Minimates, I think they're cool. I'm going to get some sets and be, you know, happy. And I'm like, these feel very chalky and fragile. And I don't know. Were they always like this? But, you know, I've gotten some older stuff like this. And the Golem Minimate that I showed off. And those. And those feel exactly how I imagined they did. I think I even recorded a review long before I had this review channel that I never posted. This was back when I, like, refused to do any editing ever. And now I just fucking edit an entire video, like, when I'm fucking sick. And yeah, it felt off. It felt noticeably weird, man. I don't know, the plastic just feels kind of messy, too. I mean, after, again, like these guys when they're sticky, you know, there's pros and cons. After a couple while, It did feel marginally better, but I mean, not by much. It's still, I think I much prefer the plastic quality to this. But if they had to change it due to like the degradation shit, I understand. But still, much prefer this one. So yeah, with the exception of the body type, it's a noticeable downgrade in pretty much every way. And I remember another Minimate I saw was MODOK, which was very similar, where it's a character I thought was good, but the way they did it kind of felt like shit. And I didn't even get that MODOK. Except that one is a much more unfair comparison, because the MODOK that you compare it is the Marvel vs. Capcom one. And that's like the best wave ever. Like the best Iron Man, best Spider-Man, best Hulk, best everything, and also tons of Capcom stuff. It's the only Smash things you'll ever get. Well, except for this Abomination. And I just wanted to illustrate one more thing that's like a down quality of Marvel Minimates. The packaging? Like you have this, and this looks silly. But then you also have these, which are fun. And then you get what this came in, and it looks like this. And that's just because Marvel is now all about the MCU. And listen, I don't want to be like those guys who fucking complain about Marvel for being bad, like the MCU humor, even though most of the examples they have don't actually happen in the movies, because they don't actually fucking watch the MCU movies, because they're posers. The MCUs are fine films. Problem is, what would you prefer? This or this? Great example. I went to both the Marvel Island as a kid in Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, which looks like this, and even though it's campy as hell, this looks like you stepped right into a comic book, and even as a kid, I always remembered it. It stuck out in my mind, even the shitty restaurant we went to. It's amazing. And then last summer, I went to Disneyland, California Adventure, and they had a Marvel section, but it was MCU based. And it's boring. Even the character costumes, like Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, characters I love, Captain Marvel. Don't love that character. It's just not, it's like, you know? I don't know. It's just like, at least the movies are good, but man, the media that we're getting, Marvel's kind of at a bad spot outside of the MCU. I don't know. Maybe that's also because Minimates are being sold at Walgreens, and most of the time I don't see them anymore. So that's all I'm saying. Alright, let's get into articulation before I, whinge about the MCU like every other Twitter user. Okay, so this guy, the only thing that's limited, head's a little limited. The shoulders only go out that far. And the waist is a little bit hard to move, but, not really at all. And that's it. That's the only difference. Whereas this, I'll give Minimates this, the newer style, much better shoulder articulation. Much better. I mean, yeah. Although this glove was very tight out of the box, and I think I tried to move it so hard that I might have stressed the bend here, so it feels very loose. And I don't even like moving it, but, this one moves, so that's nice. And because of the raised waist, it has virtually no problem moving, at all. And, the legs have, terrible range, the hips, I should say. And there's no boot or ankle articulation, so I guess, I don't know, I'd say this one might have better articulation because I think shoulder articulation is a bit more important than, ankle swivels. And also his head's slightly better, but slightly. So, yeah, old versus new on the Minimates. Overall, this one is a bit of a dated Minimate, but I still think it's better than the new one. I think the golden age for Marvel Minimates was honestly, back in 2012, or 2014, because we got this back then. I don't know, the newer stuff feels kind of chalky, it's based off of the MCU stuff, and it's just a lot more bland. I wanted to get back into, Marvel Minimates, or just Minimates in general, get really attached and start collecting them, but, all the Minimates I saw, they're all boring. And, the two ones that I wanted, because they had this guy and Venom, They're not that good. They're not that good. I think there's older counterparts that are better. And again, this is a dated Minimate. It's still better than this one. I think the perfect Abomination is much like the Lizard, how it took like the boring... it took all of the parts from the previous ones and just made it look better. Take the body of this, not the head, but give it the details of this, and you got yourself the perfect Abomination. And again, I like Abomination. He's Fish Hulk, and Hulk is one of my favorite characters. The whole, like, childhood PTSD anger issue character is really interesting. It's really cool, and it's why I think that the Ang Lee movie, even though it's not very good, is better than the 2008 or 2009, whatever the fuck movie, because that movie's boring. Yeah, any other shitty takes I want to say? The Last Jedi is a good movie.